All right, we are live now.
Hello, everyone, whoever's in the chat. Hello, Joe. He told me you're a pain in the ass and you're his friend. That true? I edited that part of it. Christine joined us. Hello, Christine. So
Hi, Joe. Hi, Christine.
I was Jason had that amazing sale the other day, and then we were chatting back and forth regarding the order and so on. And he said, "Hey, if you want to hang out and do a live with me on Sunday," so I accepted. I said, "Why not? What is we have something good to do on Sunday night then." So here we are again on another live. I'm making the channel rounds now.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah. We were talking earlier about the trip. I thought we were going to go to I was going to go to the Boston area to Lawrence. I have a few cousins there. One of my uncle lives there to their parents. Like these kids' father. And my aunt, she's the oldest one. She was 98, had a bad stroke, and she passed away recently. So my mother's sister, they live next to each other here. They were going to go. They wanted to go up to see the brother that's up there. There's just the three of them remaining. There were nine,
Yeah.
nine. But we thought it was going to be this weekend. I miscalculated because I thought Memorial Day weekend was next weekend. But she just traveled back yesterday, so I said let her rest. We are definitely planning to go next Saturday morning,
Okay.
and then probably maybe I was planning to stop by your place in Boston and hang out a little bit. Probably Sunday morning. I don't know if you have something going on.
Sundays, usually on weekends, I'm free. I usually just have me and my son.
Yeah.
I'm pretty flexible. Yeah, no, I went hand cleaning my fish tanks. Like crap, Jose coming. He wants to do a video. I'm like, Dave's got to look. And then I didn't see your message till the next day. And I listened to it. I'm like, ah, dang it! I just cleaned up. I'm like, I got to do it again next week.
Yeah, every time I have like a 3-day weekend, I work in an emergency room as a second job. And since the end of December, a contract ended there, and I have not started a second job. So I've been pretty much doing my normal 3 shifts a week, but I've been doing overtime. So I've been doing 4 or 5 days. My regular job is 3. So I
Yeah.
have all this a quote unquote free time. And usually Saturdays is my water change day. But here I say, oh, I have a 3-day weekend. That's a lot of time. I didn't do much yesterday. I finished playing around with the UV here, changing some things around and adding a clarifier on top of the regular UV on the 120 behind me.
Yeah.
But usually Saturday is my water change day. I did the working tank, which is 7 between 20s and 10s. And then the big tanks, I haven't done them yet. This tank behind me is a 90. And usually I do it every Saturday. This is a modern routine because those are the days that I'm usually off. So it's easy just to do them all done. And then I know that every Saturday. I did them last Saturday. So these are the 3. I did them 2 weeks ago. So, I should have done them yesterday, today. I'll probably do them tomorrow. I have to. Let me see.
I
Jim
know.
Fish joined us. Hello. Hello, Jim.
Hi,
Thank you
Jim.
for
Nice to meet you.
thank you for inviting me again, Jason. It's fun to do these things. I had done a few. I gave away some. I went to the Dominican Republic and I printed some mugs over there. My wife's nephew, who does lots of graphic arts and does signs and that kind of stuff, he
Yep.
printed a while back one of the mugs for me, and just as a gift, he gave it to me. And then I said, I could do a bunch of these mugs. So I did like 2,000. So I left 4 over there to family. And then for one reason or the other, Christine, I have been making my own collection of channel mugs, right? And I asked Christine, oh, I'll buy you one. And Christine said, oh, no, Jose, I'm not going to sell it to you. I'm going to send you one. So I said, great. So I owe her one at least. So she got her mug, I believe, already. So she said she was going to send me another one for her channel, with a channel and Marines when they do a live together. So
Well,
I
that's
sent
nice.
I sent a bunch to different people for different reasons, and I gave some away on some lives that I've been on. So I've been shipping them out to people. Craig from Australia, I sent him one. So that shipped last week. Somebody in Spain that has a Spanish channel. There's a bunch of us, 54 in a group, Spanish speaking channels. And I sent one to him in Spain, and I probably want to do a live with him also. So I said I'd do one of the Mux channel giveaway to, to whoever is in Latin America, between Latin America and of course Spain and all of Mexico. So it has been fun. So
Very nice.
we have Margaret.
Yep.
This is
Margaret and John.
Jewfish and Christine. We already said hello to them. Joe and yeah. So I sent out a few the notification because today got kind of rushed and I didn't get to do much. Couldn't do that a lot. So when we went out later to my mom's house and see my aunt, Christine, I was telling Jason that today is Dominican Mother's Day. So the American moms, they get to celebrate twice. Some of them, the older one at least. The younger one, they just do the American Mother's Day, and that's the end of it,
Yep. Christine said she's going to send you a new mug.
Yeah, she had told me before, so I'll be happy to get it. Thanks again, Christine. And Be Like Fish, it's my wife. She has her own new channel, so a few weeks old. And
That's
so
right.
she,
So
yeah,
go
it
on there
says,
and sub right now.
yeah, thank you. Be Like Fish. That's B is Bethania. That's her name. Let me write it here. This mention is pronounced Bethania. It's like Bethany,
Yep.
but ending. That's why my daughter has her name. Is Bethania, like Bethany, but ending IA. Yeah.
Oh, hello, Betania.
Yeah. So I like the name, and I said, well, we'll do the American version for Bethany, my 9-year-old, our 9-year-old together. That's her only one. So she was the one that actually got me to do. Here she goes. Come here. This is Betania.
Hello.
That's Jason. We're gonna see Jason on Sunday next week. So Betania is my my better half, definitely, and my technical half. She was the one who encouraged me for a while to do YouTube. I said, listen, you have some knowledge. Why don't you share the information? And I was hesitant because I always said, what am I going to tell on YouTube that has not been said already, like we were saying before? But you always find that you can say things your own way, and your experiences are different than mine, certainly. We keep different kind of fish, we do things differently. And it's been fun. It's about 1.5 years since I have the channel. But fish keeping is since I was about 8 or so. I think most of us, most of us older fish keepers, we've been doing it. If we're over 50, 60, we've been doing it probably for almost as much time. I had an interesting hey Shirley, thank you for stopping by. So
Hi, Shirley.
we're getting some of our friends coming on. I had to today. I had a was it today? No, yesterday. Benno Chart does his lives on Saturday usually, right? You ever see him?
Who is it?
Benno Chart.
Never heard of him.
Really? He's like one of the. He's like he does cichlids. Yeah, he probably has over 50,000 subs. He's one of the older guys who's been around for a while. He's 70-year-old. He said once in a life. That's why I'm saying his age. But he looks pretty damn good for 70. And I was surprised when he said it. I thought he was maybe later 50s, at most early 60s. And he runs most of the time. He's big into cichlids and that kind of thing. So recently, he started preparing. Recently, meaning the last couple of months, he started preparing a discus tank, and he put the question out to the community, for opinions and stuff like that. And Sean from Discus North, he keeps discus too. And he actually, he was following the advice for some people, and he was actually doing that, which was pretty interesting. So yesterday, I had I happened to see who was on the chat, and I just scroll up, and there was a certain person there, so I won't mention the name. I'll just say the Dirt King. Maybe you can figure out what I'm talking about. Not Jeff Kane. Not Jeff Kane. The natural.
I really don't keep up with a lot of the YouTubers.
Okay, yeah, the natural dirty tank older guy. I just don't want to mention names. But anyway, you got it now. Yeah. I don't want to go get into naming,
Grandfather
but
guy.
that same guy, that same dude. Yeah. So, I am, as it has a while back, Jorge, there was, a live with Corey. You know who Corey is from a Corey Co-op, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You know who he is, right? But he is,
yeah.
again, along with King of DIY, he was one of the other people, one of the older people on YouTube and this, in this niche. And he's Corey's respect. I respect him as a businessman. And a while back, there was a live with Adam from Patty Aquatics. He interviewed Corey. I don't know if Adam is in Canada. I'm not sure. If anybody knows in the chat, let me know because I've always been wondering. So he had a chat with Corey, and now this guy Patty says that he has a bunch of tanks, a lot of tanks, and he said most of them are dirty tanks, and he does no filtration, no air, no nothing pretty much, and no water changes. And Corey said, why do you keep fish tank and not at least minimum do aeration? It helps circulate food around. And that's the cheapest thing. If you're looking to save money, that's the cheapest thing around, right? And the cheapest thing in keeping fish is just air. You can get a pump, you spread it around, and you get air for everything. And then Corey
I saw
said,
that clip.
huh?
I saw that clip, and Corey said the air is free.
Yeah, pretty much. And then he said, that's like the cheapest thing. And then he says, I think this no water changing dirty tank is somebody's way of selling crap to lazy people, which I thought it was amazing that he can come out and say. Again, no names were mentioned, but
Yep.
he created a kind of a stir. And I asked Jorge, why don't we just have a live between George and I? And I just talk about different methods, different things work for different people. I have nothing against the people who dirty aquarium. But if you're going to keep aquarium, you're going to talk about not changing water, right? Not putting any kind of filtration at all. And you figure that plants are going to do it all. Because
Why even have an aquarium?
that's my point. Because the thing is, one of the things that a lot of people don't get is that they figure that just topping off. Listen, it's cool if you have. I keep tanks that are overstocked. All my tanks are overstocked on purpose. I like it that way. I really don't have any issues. I do 80% water change. And again, you change water for whatever works for you. I'm not saying do this, do that. This is what works for me. Like all of us say, And then Patty, after that, he kind of started changing some other things. Now, some people say I never do water changes and my fishes live. Now, what happens is that if you have a large tank and you haven't planted and you have 5, 6, 7, 8 guppies in there, that's not a large bio load, right? And probably that's. Mhm.
Hi, Jesse. Jesse just joined us.
Hey, Jesse, too. How are you? Jesse, one more fish. Jesse, too. They started calling him Jesse, too, just to keep things less confusing. So, this kind of, so Mexicali and I agreed to do this, but he also invited Aquafunk and Sean from Discus North. And they got into such a heated argument in there that it got funny after a little while because it looks like they had something, with each other before. So they already came in with some tension in there.
Yep.
And then Aquafunk said, I'm going to ask this person. I know him personally. He's a friend. But I'm going to go into his channel and ask him, what is this thing with the no water changes? Why will you not do water change? So, then him and Mexicali later jump into his live. And then he says, in one of his lives, he says, no water changes. He says he wanted to grow his channel and his business. And then in the meantime, he does some water changes. He does some of these other things. I was just kind of giving you a long story just to catch you up on the point that I was getting to. And but anyway, after that, a lot of people did a lot of videos about whether dirty tanks are good or not. But a lot of the people who claim to follow this method, it's just kind of the Wallstead method, which was probably when she posted her book, Diana Wallstead, was probably about 40 years ago. And this new dirty thing, Craig, has been probably the last 4 or 5 years. You could look at his numbers and see when this thing started with this. As Sean likes to call it, cult. But yesterday, on Saturday, with Benno chart, he has a discus tank now that is doing wonderful. And that he's talking about, he does probably about 30% water changes twice a week. I do 80% once a week. And this person says, he says, you could probably do fewer water changes, right? And then I said, listen, Ben, don't let anybody tell you that a dirty tank and no water changes could ever be good for discus, or fewer water changes would be good. So he very diplomatically skipped one of my comments, but went right to my comments 3 times. And that he says that, yeah, that water changes, this is what works for them. I said, I have no dirt in my tank, it's all gravel, plants do well. And I said, don't let people tell you that not doing water changes on discus or fewer water changes is a good thing. It can be. So, and then so if you do large water changes, your fish are gonna die. Well, 80%, I've done 100% water change on this tank behind me, and I've never lost a discus with large water change. So it's whatever works for you, whatever your fishes are accustomed to. You know,
Now,
so
when you do 100% water change, is the water already pre-made, or are you doing it straight off the tap?
no. I straight off the tap. New York City water is like 7.4, and I do add a dechlorinator. That's the only thing I add to the water. So straight out of the tap, only temperature match. I have a gauge that I put it on the hose, the temperature gauge.
Yep.
So, you know, I first adjusted there to I keep them at about 82, 84. So once I have that temperature, I let it run for a little, because then the temperature changes after a few minutes. And then I measure what's coming out at the end. And then when I'm set, I just put it in there, add a little bit of the chlorinator. And that's the only thing I add to the tank. I don't chase numbers. I just do the 80%. When I said I've done 100% change, there's been a couple of times that I've done it where I drain down to 80. I start filling, and when I'm about halfway, I start draining again while the thing is filling, and I just keep that going for a while. If it goes up a little bit, I drain again. I use a 1 horsepower pump, and I can drain this 80% of this 120 gallon in about 6.5 minutes. So it does go down quickly. So I'll turn off the pump, continue filling, so that in essence, I exchanging 100% of the water more than once, you know, because I've
Gotcha.
changed more, and nothing ever happens. Nothing ever happens because they're accustomed to having clean water.
Yep.
Right.
So your mom's here. So hello, Jose's mom, Anna.
There's this let me see. I don't know if this Ana Blanco is my mom. This is earlier is my mom, or it could be my sister-in-law that also has the same name. Oh, no, she said me, my hijo, my son. I think it may be her.
Well, your wife wrote Anna is Jose's mom.
Oh, she said it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes she's Ana is Jose's mom. Okay. This because I also have Ana Blanco, who is my sister partner, also is the same name.
Okay.
Hello, David Aquatic. How are you?
Hi,
Margaret
David.
is Margaret a friend of yours? Margaret
Yeah,
P?
so it's probably John and Margaret. Yeah. So how often do you do a 80% water change? I want to know.
Once a week, pretty much. Now, these guys, the other 3 larger tanks, is 2 weeks. They don't have to be done every week, but for me, it's just easier just to know that I did them every Saturday, and then I don't have to think that I did them last Saturday or not. So I just do it for a matter of habit. But these guys, except this one, these other 3, I have not changed them in 2 weeks. So it's a little bit over 2 weeks now. But either tonight or tomorrow, I will do them.
Okay.
And sometimes if I'm doing any kind of treatment, which I haven't needed to do in a while, I probably may have to do 25% daily, because the medication that you're treating with requires that. But it's usually 80% once a week. Again, that's what I do all the time, and I don't have issues with the large water changes.
That makes sense. Well, they're accustomed to it at this point.
Huh?
Well, they're accustomed to the 80% water change at this point.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that people who says, well, my friend hasn't done a water change for 1 year, and why his fish don't die. And this is very simple. They adapt easily. For example, a tank that some of the fish that I got from you, they're already, some of them are in my mother's tank, but I just did a water test today. So the tank is still in the cycling process. Just have a little bit of ammonia now. And I'm doing a fishing cycling. So I have them here quarantining them again, right? To quarantine everything that comes home. And I just had a little bit of ammonia, a little bit of ammonia, but it's going through the cycle now. This tank that was given to me, my wife's cousin, a 20-year-old son, she says, he's doesn't want to take care of the tank anymore. So ask your husband, me, if he wants it. So I said, sure, I'll take it. I'm sure I'll find an owner for it. So I offered to my mom. She already has, I think it's a 29-gallon. So when I brought it home, my idea was that was going to replace that, was going to be an upgrade, but she was looking at it like she wanted to keep both. I said, you can keep the second one, it's fine. So it's going through cycling. So now that the fish that were in that tank, I have a Synodontis tank here, a Synodontis cat. It's a large cat.
Yep.
So I took that one because she has smaller fish in her tank, or will have smaller fish. So I took that one because this tank back here, this 90-gallon, has some geophagus and the bigger fish. Well, the biggest ones are the geophagus, really, at 3 different types. The smallest fish I have there is an Odessa barb, so it would not be an issue with them. So what happened, this one I brought in, other than acclimating it to temperature, I did a slow drip, throw some of the water out, add a little bit more. So I acclimated him also to this water slowly. Now, my mom, when I took it to her already established tank, she basically acclimated the temperature and plopped them in, as she does with every fish that I bring her. Most of the fish were dead the next day. So although the water for that tank, when I went and drained it and emptied it, was pretty clear because of the mechanical filtration part, who knows what was dissolved in that water. Other things, I've told you that I do have a large science background, and I think osmosis and diffusion, two basic science laws. Osmosis, is basically stuff moving across a membrane. So if you take a fish that is already in something that has dissolved, in whatever is dissolved in the tank, it's concentrated. The fish body is not. So that stuff usually moves in, or it'll move in or out to balance things on both sides. That will kill the fish. That's why these fish, if you do large water changes, they cannot adapt that quickly. These guys are, the water doesn't hang around that long to build up your TDS to whatever it is. They can adapt easily. Fish adapt, animals adapt, we adapt easily. And I like to give an example. A lot of the time, if you and I went up to the Himalayas, we'll be short of breath very quickly and have altitude sickness. We'll be short of breath because we're not adapted to that low oxygen level up there. Now, the people that live there, they're accustomed to that and they do fine.
Hey, Jose,
Now,
do you want to try coming in and out real quick? Because you're going real blurry.
I'm going blurry on this one here.
Yeah,
I can see myself real blurry on the computer, but here, you want me to just get out and come back in?
yeah. Try call out and come back in. Sometimes I might clear it out.
Okay, let me do that. Okay.
Hello, Mel. Hello, everyone. How many tanks does Jose have? I'm not too sure. Hi, June. Just so you guys all know, I'll be shipping you guys fish out, all those Blue Pearl Skin Angels this week. On Tuesday,
Any
I'll be
better?
all those out.
It still looks blurry though.
Yeah, still kind of blurry.
Yeah, I see myself on the camera. It looks pretty good, but I can see myself blurry on the other screen.
Yeah, and I look good here, then I look good in the mirror, and I look sad.
What is that?
So I look good on the camera, then I go look in the mirror, and I look sad.
Yeah, it looked pretty blurry. I don't know what it is on the camera. It looks pretty good here. Hello, June. That is Aquatic. I already said hello before.
How many tanks do you have, Jose?
I have a total of 11. I have a 120 behind me. To my right here is a 90, 65, and 60. Those are the 3 primary display tanks. The other 7 is 3 20-gallons, 3 10s, and 1 2.5, 5.5. I use those for breeding, quarantine, treatment. They're kind of the working tanks. So those are just all bare bottom, just strictly for treatment. And in quarantine and breeding. I have some cories that are breeding and some preventions with babies. So those are.
Nice. Can we
I
see a
like.
close up of some of your tanks? Do you mind? Do you mind?
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully, it will.
Flare
Let
out.
me see if I can flip the camera around, and it will be. Yeah, I just canceled the camera. Settings. Front camera. Give me a second. Let's see. How is the image there? Can you see clearly? I cannot. Is it clear at all? The image?
Um, it's
Blurry.
it's freezing a little bit.
Let me try something else. Let me get out of the. I don't know if it's
All
the
right.
internet. I don't know if it's the internet here. Boy.
Hi Anthony, how you doing, brother? What's up, Jason? I'm watching, brother. I'm currently sitting on some wigglers from the mail orange flash I got from you. That's awesome, dude. Hopefully you get a ton more fries soon.
Let me see if I can go into my own. Because even the signal seems weak from my own. I'm gonna get out of the Wi-Fi and see.
It was actually pretty quick. You got fry. You got those about 2 weeks ago, right, Anthony? It was about 2 weeks ago. You got those fish for me. All right, let's get Jose back in here.
A few people have come in. Hey, Anthony Rios. Where's Rios from? The last name.
I'm not too sure. He came to my house a couple weeks ago and picked up some orange flash for me too.
Is the image better now? It looks better, right?
It looks a lot better.
Yeah, this is on my phone, not on Wi-Fi, just on my phone signal here.
Yeah, it looks so much better.
Are the tanks clear?
Oh yeah, that's 100% better.
All right. Yeah, I think I got off the Wi-Fi. Now this is a discus tank here, right? This is 120 gallon. You have a clear image here?
I have a beautiful image. I don't think discus have enough space though. There's so many discus.
This is what I'm telling you, that I keep my tanks overstock. And these guys, they kind of all hanging out at the front because they think they're being fed, of course, but they're usually all over the place. And they all are occupying the front end of things. There's a couple that are at the back over there.
Yeah.
But they actually, it doesn't look as much here, but they do have a lot of room because they're just hanging out at the front of the space here. But I have a few other, some bottom stuff like some Corridora, some Plecos, a school of Cardinal, but they're all kind of hiding between the plants. But they actually they have pretty room. They just as a schooling fish, they just like to be clumped on one side. And I have these two angels here. If I could find them, the camera is opposite. I gotta mirror the camera so I don't have this issue here.
I can do that for you right now. You ready?
Oh, you can? Go ahead. Oh yeah, that's
Just
better.
did it.
So I have this. This is a female zebra angel, and there's one back there. She's growing. They're both female. I'm saying female because they both laid eggs with a couple of other guys that I have back here. I have to keep them separate. So male. This one here. Sorry.
Okay. Can I interrupt you for a second? Yeah, Rios is from Puerto Rico, sir.
Yeah. No.
And,
Yeah.
what's that?
The last name is typical. I'm from the Dominican Republic, Anthony. So the Rios is a very common Puerto Rican last name. So that's why I asked. I was just curious. But today it's hard to tell with names. So yeah, with this one, all the larger tanks I filter with FX6. This one I have UV, and just today I set up the clarifier because Flubal now. I was trying to get one for a few years ago, but they were not making it for FX6. But because of the rate of flow through them and so on, they affect bacteria and so on. But this tank, I have the UV running probably for about 2 months. I wanted to set it up for a while, but money was an issue. And finally, I just got it done. But it does make a difference in the health of the fish. Even probably won't cure a sick fish, but definitely if there's less bacteria flowing around, it'll affect them less. So that's the discus tank. This one is, if you see any algae on the glass, there's, again, this is 2 weeks. There's a little bit of spot algae on the glass, But this
Yeah,
is a
that looks
90
mint.
gallon. Huh?
That looks mint. My tank after 2 weeks would be pure green on the walls.
Yeah, no, this is just if you look up here, you see that? But again, remember I said I usually do them weekly and maybe once a month I sponge, or every 2, 3 weeks I sponge the glass. But this one, it's just overdue for change for my standards. So again, this is overstocked. There's a lot of activity there. And, for me, keeping overstock is really not an issue. Some people, how can you do it? Then your fish dies and they get sick. I said, no, not really. I mean, some of them die because it's their time. They're going to last a year or two. And I don't like aggressive fish. Both these guys here get along. I don't really have a problem with aggression. And this is the Synodontis coming up. You see him, the one that I was telling you about? So
Yeah.
he survived because it was a slow adaptation to the water here from whatever he was living in. So this is again the 90 gallon, and this is a planted, obviously planted. This is tiger bark again, overstock. There's a lot of them there, and there's some more quarantining. As far as this guy being fin nippers, this guy has been here about 4 years with them, still alive. There's no nip things there. What I have found is that they are opportunistic. If there's a fish that they sense that is sick, they hone in on that one and get to him. Out of all the fish here, the biggest one is this red tail. Here it is. This red tail barb. Nobody bothers him. He kind of chases the others around at some point. And one time I saw him on the floor, on the ground, and he was just not moving a lot. He was just kind of there, and they were all pecking at him. He had a lot of little scuff marks on
Yeah.
his but they were like pecking at him. But I took him out. I said something is up with him. I treated him, returned him 2 weeks later. That was more than a year ago. So they do sense when there's trouble, and they just hone in on that fish, whether it's their own or something else. So that is the okay.
Okay.
Sorry
That's
about
a gorgeous looking tank. We get Jeff here. Hello, Jeff. How are you, brother?
Jeff P or Jeff K.
Jeff with the P.
Okay, hello there. I'm not looking at the chat now, obviously. So this is this guy here. He is a seal point, Bulgarian seal point. He's huge. His fins outstretched. They probably go 9 inches from top to bottom. So he is.
Very big.
The other one that I showed on the 90 gallon, they both are male. And this one I call Darth Vader because he's been every tank, and there's always an issue with aggression. There was 2 geophagus here, so they were hiding. My wife is usually the one who spots trouble. I said, "Why are the geos hiding?" Because usually they're up and about because they were getting bullied. So I put them in the other tank before the geos, and they're fine. They're all over the place, but they were being bullied by this guy here. So I'm gonna have to probably rehome this one or the other one. I think these fish, the Bulgarian sea point, Aquafunk said that they were like his one of his, what do you call it, his bucket list fish. I may send them one or both. So
Oh, that's cute.
this is the 60 gallon. Now these are my working tank. Let me go around and show you what they look like. Now one of the things that most of the cabinets I've done myself, except the 120. So this cabinet here I built. I found a frame that I could keep like 240s. They were pre-built, but I just built. My wife said, "Why don't you just build a cabinet so you can have it at eye level?" So these are my working tanks. Okay, so these I got. I did a video today. This is a large pool of. There was some CPDs here from Peplin. Maybe there's about 40 or so cardinals and rumminos here. So I usually quarantine for 4 to 6 weeks. This is another
Okay.
10. These guys are, well, you know what they are. They're carrots anyway. And there's some of your pistols are here.
Yep.
They're hiding. Though they're doing fine. They've been doing fine. For some reason, as I told you before, for some reason, the Amica splendens, I keep my temperature. All these have a temperature of about 82 degrees. They probably don't like the temperature. Maybe they just prefer. I never had them before, so I really had no idea. So I put them there. They didn't do well for the next couple of days. Again, nothing on your end.
Yeah, I keep
Eh,
them right around 72 to 74.
Yeah, no, yeah,
That's what I
definitely.
keep most of my fish rooms around,
Yeah,
right around
yeah,
72.
yeah. I think the lowers the that tank over there is 79.5. Actually 79 is that's the lower limit. It's 78.5, but that's the one I keep the coldest. These here again, let me this is again another 10. Was there anything here from you? So these pistols here, these were the ones that I got from Ron last week. And there's a bunch of small stuff there that I have quarantined, including some Odessa barbs here. The 60-gallon that I showed you where the large angel was, maybe a month or two ago, I had the pre-filled on the FX6 just fell off because the weight
Yeah.
on it, and it sucked up like 45 fish. I lost 27 altogether. So that
Damn.
tank, yeah, that tank is pretty empty for what it usually is. Usually a very busy tank. So a lot of these are going to be going to that tank back to have the activity that I generally want. This was most of these guys, the larger one, these David Elford. I bought them from him. He sent them to me. He said that they were his breeding stock, but he was going to put them at a club. And I said, no, sir, I'll get them because I'm not interested in breeding, but they've been laying eggs. Some
Yeah.
of the eggs don't do too well, but I have well, they just ran away. I have some fry here. I don't know if you can see them darting around. There's only 3 of them there, but those are they doing fine. And I just have the lights off here. I think mom just put them on the cave now. There's a bunch of a pistol. Yeah, I think she's hiding them in the cave right now. These are not the albinos, the regular pistol that I got from Ron a few months back. And they also like to breed like crazy, so I have to keep them separate. And these here, these are also from Ron. These are the females. I just have them separate so they don't lay eggs. And I have these red swords I got from Ron also. These are the red blue Colombian tetras. I have 6 of them to replace some of the losses. And here's more of your Hapistos. They're all doing great. It was just these splendens, and I think the temperature was the issue. They were just not used to it. This is just a side view of the other tank where I have these barbs. And these are in quarantine. This guy is probably about 9 inches. He's a big guy. And these 2 guys, they paired. When I saw them in the when I got these a week before I got this guy,
Yep.
and once I put them in, they started bullying him both as a couple. But this is a female, the yellow one. The other one is a male, and the male is probably minimum. He's about 7 inches. This one, she's over 6. And for when I saw them originally, where I went to the store to pick them up, they were in a large tank, maybe I don't know, 75 to 80 gallons. And they were to one side, pecking at the glass, maybe preparing to lay eggs. I said, it looks like they're coupled, and they always hanging out together. So I think they haven't tried laying eggs, but I've had them a lot of the times that during the quarantine, some of the others they have laid eggs. So I'm gonna switch the camera around.
We got to breed some more because I need some more discus.
Huh? Yeah, you know what happens is that timing is an issue, and I have space. Once these start growing out, these guys, some of the discus, there's 4 of them that are babies there. I have they're about a year and a half now. I have 4 of them, but it was like 100, probably about 200 babies that I had fries, and out of those, that 1 month, what do you call that month? That 30-day syndrome. Usually, it's whatever it is. Nobody seems to describe it pretty well. There are things you can do to prevent it, but they just started dropping off like 5 or 6 a day at around 30 days or so. I
So what
tried.
were you feeding at that age, out of curiosity?
I feed. There's a powder. I use the Hikari powder, but also baby brine shrimp. I don't grow it myself. I don't. I buy it frozen just because of ease and space for me.
Yeah, because when I bred the discus, I never had a die off at 30 days. The only issue I ever had with discus is when I fed them flakes. I lost a bunch the very next day.
Oh, no, no, I feed them everything. They go for vegetables when I put them in there. The only thing that I stopped feeding Discus is bloodworm. There's been a lot of back and forth whether this kid from Australia, Nick, he did a video where he lost a bunch of fish because they kind of gorged on a lot of the bloodworm. One of the things that I noticed is, and what I've read and hear, that there's really not a lot of nutrition on bloodworms. They do go crazy for it, all the fish do. But I stopped giving it because there's so many other options for food that why risk, if there isn't a possibility, why risk it? And one of the things that I noticed that once I was feeding bloodworm on a regular basis, whether it was once a week, I was having more parasite or white fruit issues with the discus. So I stopped feeding it. That problem stopped. Although I still periodically, every 1 to 2 months, I deworm. I preventatively. And I know somebody asked me if you already did the quarantine and you dewormed them then, why is there a need to deworm them again? I said, well, you do buy frozen food, although they claim that it is parasite free, who knows? There's no guarantee. So it's just one of those things. An ounce of prevention is worth more. Like they say, it's less than a pound of cure. So I try to follow that idea, and it doesn't cost much to get all the tank treated. It's a 1-day treatment. And I really have not, once I treat them the first time, I just don't take a chance because a while back, those who have been where I've streamed before, this whole tank, the discus tank, at the time I had about 24 discus in there. I brought in some rummy nose. It was rummy nose that I ordered from online. I quarantined like for 2 weeks. Oh, they look good. I threw them in there, and then this columnaris, particular disease, came in, which can wipe your whole tank like in 24 hours, they say. So although I was treating it, I was dropping like 2 to 4 discs every day, and that was painful and expensive. So that's why quarantine. I'm a little bit more excited. I haven't done any treatment on these guys, and they've been for about 2 weeks. So I'm just letting you get everything that I'm going to get, and then just treat them all at once. But I just been overfeeding them so they can build up the immunity system a little bit, and they just treat them all at once. Hello, Jeff. Hustle and grind. That's a new name. Friend of mine.
Sorry.
I'm not a mod on your channel, so I cannot go directly to the link.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, most of the other people I know.
Yeah. So do you sell discus? They want to know.
No. I don't sell them. I don't purposely try to breed them. My wife, a lot of the time, will say, why don't you take this couple out? Why don't you let them breed? Why don't you, because she's the one who kind of pushes me a lot to get them to breed. But again, it comes to the time of once you have them with my work schedule, especially if I'm doing 2 nursing jobs, I get leave home. I have to be at 6 a.m. at the job. And then by the time I come home, I will feed them in the morning, feed them at night, and my wife usually takes care of the babies during the day, 3 to about 5, 6 times a day feeding, and then you're gonna need all the space. So I would love to have the space and have at least another 10 tanks just for grow out, and then I will go more extensive on breeding the discus. The bunch where I have 4 that are left behind, those guys. I'm trying to fix this camera here. Those guys, I have 4, like I said, they're about 18 months now, but I don't try to purposely breed them. Sometimes I separate out, but they may eat the fried after 2 weeks, or they eat the eggs somewhere in between. So for this, it's kind of hard sometimes because they either are very good parents from the beginning, or they just have to learn, and you may have to try multiple times before they get it right.
Yep. No, so quarterly I will quarantine, but I'll deworm my whole fish room once a quarter. Once every 3 months, I deworm the whole fish room.
Yeah.
And I've heard people tell me, "Oh, you're doing liver damage, you're doing kidney damage because you're constantly giving them medication." What do you feel about that?
I can tell you that I'm going to be talking from a nurse point of view for 43 years now. You find that even in medicine, you have people that have big differences of opinion. That's why people will tell you, go to another doctor, get a second opinion. because you're going to find that even you're doing rounds and there are different people. And then sometimes there's arguments between different forms of treatment and not, you don't always agree with it. I treat because the other thing is, the other option is you don't treat it. Let's say in the case of discus, parasites, internal parasites, you may not, the discus looks perfectly fine and they start losing weight and you're wondering why. And there's parasites, possibly that are consuming whatever they eat, the nutrition. And when discus is very skinny, it's very difficult to bring them back. Sometimes they get this skinny disease from discus and it's not, this is Bethany. After Bethany,
Hello,
this is
Bethany.
my 9-year-old. This is Jason here. We're probably going to see Jason next week because we're going to our cousins and he lives over there in that side of the world.
Wait, one to the other side of the world?
And he lives in Boston.
I live in China.
And he lives in China. That's the other side for it. So I treat. I don't. What I was talking about medicine thing is that there are some people, the anti-vaxxers, let's say, you know what? There are no children's in the chat, right? I say, if they are, I'm not gonna say it. I'll be nice, if I go by my crazy sense of humor. But if the vaccine comes around for something, and I notice it's gonna be, of course, anything that you take into your body, you're gonna have potentially side effect of something, right? So
Yep.
it's either that or you get the disease and possibly die or get very sick. There was a lot of if anybody was in a medical area during COVID, you can see they'll know what we went through. Other people that this never happened, that this was a hoax and all that other bull they were talking about. I can tell you because I work in an emergency room, I work in a recovery room. They took 35 out of 30 of 35 operating rooms and converted them to COVID ICU. So we have 3 to 4 patients, the sickest patient, and we had about 180 patients within those operating rooms converted to ICU. I can tell you that when I got COVID, which was early on, the first month, I was happy. It was like an oh yes moment because I said, if this is all I was getting, I was damn lucky for what was going on. I was a prime suspect, age over 60, Hispanic, diabetic. So I was one of those guys that would have not been around. And I felt lucky that the symptoms that I had were not as bad as some of the people that I was treating. Now, once the vaccine came around, in the emergency room job, once a lot of people were vaccinated, people who had COVID, the biggest thing was sore throat and maybe a fever, nothing major. And sometimes they came in with a broken leg and this was like, oh, by the way, you have a COVID. So go home. There's nothing we're going to do for it because just it'll wear itself out. Now, the people who needed to be hospitalized were not vaccinated. And they would say, can I get the vaccine now? I said, well, it's too late. You already have the disease. So you're going to have, acquired immunity because you have the disease already. But I definitely would treat. I am in the camp of quarantine. If you don't want to quarantine, that's up to you. And I quarantine with meds because some people say, why would you treat a fish just in case it has something? We don't know. And the fish may look perfectly fine and be carrying a Trojan horse, like it happened with this guy back here, where I lost, again, I said, huh?
Yeah, that's the thing though. Is like a lot of times before you realize you have the issues, half the time it's too late to even treat. So once they
Yeah,
stop
no.
eating, it's a nightmare trying to treat them.
Mhm. Yeah, once you stop treating them, or once you start, now, will you lose fish during quarantine? You could potentially affect their liver. That is true. So are we now because you have a bad pneumonia that can kill you. Are you not going to take an antibiotic treatment because it may hurt your liver or your kidneys? If you look at the package insert for any medication, for Tylenol, for aspirin, you will never take any medications because there's a 1%, 1 in 1,000 chance that you may have some problem with the liver. Nothing serious, but are you going to hold treatment for something that will definitely kill you? But you may be one of that 1,000 or 100,000 people that may have a particular side effect. I don't risk it, not with fish, because I think they can be costly, but the cost of 1 kilo of a certain medication that I like to use, it costs less than a single discus. So I treat them. I don't take a chance. But again, everybody does whatever your practices or whatever your feelings and theories are, or you have to follow whatever works for you. And that's pretty much, the best thing to say is that you have to do what what you feel is right for you. Some people say, why would I treat them? These guys so far, all of them here, the ones, these 7 tanks that I show you, I mean, they look as happy as shit. They look they're eating well. The discs especially, they look perfect. Why would I medicate them? But again, I don't know what they're carrying. Even if it's a trusted source, like I get fish from you, from the people in the community, I trust that they're fine. Right? They're not coming from some breeder where they've been terribly mass produced, and there are maybe parasites of some other bacteria that come in. What you order online that come from overseas, you don't know what they're carrying. But it's nothing wrong with being cautious.
Yeah, and sometimes I feel too that like different fish when they come from a different environment, if they
Mhm.
do have parasites, they will like lay dormant, and then when they go in a different tank or different environment, they tend to come back out.
It can,
I've
because
noticed that.
yeah, you can. And going back to like the water that I use and the disc is, I did a live the other night with this Mexican group, right? There, Jorge and I are part of, as I mentioned before when we first started. There's a very large. There's 54 of us. Jorge and I were one of the first 10, and they call them Reyes del Agua, which means kings of the water, basically. Not basically, that's what it translates to. So they invited their Spanish-speaking YouTube channels throughout Spanish-speaking countries, Spain, Mexico, and all of South America. So there's a bunch of us. And they invited me, and one of the guys says, this guy, I equal him to Stephen P., who's very knowledgeable. A lot of science behind him when he speaks. I like listening to Stephen P. and certainly Kelly Foreman. They're people who seem to have a lot of science, and I enjoy that kind of thinking. And this kid, well, he's a kid younger than I am. I'm 63, so I'm calling him a kid, but he's probably late 30s, so maybe about 40. But he's very knowledgeable, and there were 3 of them, and we were chatting, and they were listening to what I was saying, and then he says, Jose, that in Mexico here, anybody who is able to keep discus alive and breed them, we consider them a master. I say, well, thank you for the kind word. I don't consider myself that or an expert in anything. But I said, their water in Mexico, they said is pretty bad. I said, well, maybe the water in New York is magical. I don't know. But one of the places that I go to where I get one or two places I get discus from, this is maybe 2 or 3 I have that are from there. It's a Chinese owned store. Most of his fish come from Malaysia. And occasionally he gets some wilds. I've seen some wilds that I would like on pictures, but not live. If I ever see one that I really, excites me, then I'll buy it. But I haven't seen one that is colorful enough, to meet my taste of what I like. And I asked
I
them,
agree.
yeah. And I said, the wilds, what type of water do you use? He says, tap water. And I see when they get here, when he gets shipment, he puts them on a 5-pail bucket, any fish, and he dumps half of the water and just fill in with another bucket, just dump half of the water in, and then maybe does that once or twice. That's how he acclimates them to the water, right? But he says they come straight out of the wilds. But again, these wilds were collected. They went someplace and then acclimated to whatever local waters, wherever that intermediate person was. Then they come there, then they come home. So they have somehow slowly adapted to different water. So there's not a sudden shift, is what I believe. But if you're going to take a tank that, like I mentioned earlier, if you're going to take any fish for a tank that has not had any water changes for months and months, and then you suddenly take them and put them in a water gets changed every week, they're not going to adapt that quickly, because the osmotic changes and stuff moving back and forth across membranes, they're not going to tolerate that, and they will die. As that happened with the example of that tank with fish that was given to me that I gave my mother. Her fish died. The other one, I acclimated him slowly. He did fine.
Yep.
So I don't
Nope,
know if it's
I
so much.
agree.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much the water or whatever care you generally give. let me see, it was something else that I wanted to say regarding that. No, I was kind of happy. Yes, the other day. Hey, Tracy, Anthony Rios again, Jeff Pelham. Yeah, I think we have
Yep.
the same people on. So,
Yeah, hi Tracy. Anthony Rios had a question. You guys do a med trio. What do you do for meds when you do quarantine?
okay, my Met Trio is not the Met Trio that Corey from Aquarium Co-op talks about. His Met Trio is ICX. He uses General Cure, and what's the other one?
It's been a long time since I've seen
That's
that
the trio
video.
that he uses. Am I still okay with sound and everything else? Can you hear me okay,
What's that?
Jay?
I hear you just fine.
Okay. So the Metrio, I have another Metrio that I like to use, which is it comes together mixed. And this particular trio, I use it for quarantine. And anytime I see anything strange with a fish, whether it's behavior, hiding, or something physical other than behavior, I take them out and treat them because I don't know what's going on. We don't send labs for fish. We don't know what's going on. And they usually do well. Anything that I see, though, the trio is kanamycin, which is Canaplex, the same as Canaplex, metronidazole, which is Metro, and then nitrofurosome. I think it was Furan was the trade name that was used somewhere else. So that trio together, it's the company that I get it from. I've seen it by other people sold. That's the same trio because that trio has most of the things that the illnesses that we encounter. These guys cover it. It's a very big broad spectrum antibiotic. So it's like you think about, you don't know what they have. You take a shotgun, it's all the pellets spread out, and you're gonna hit whatever it is because of you hitting it with everything. You same person, you had the same thing in an emergency room. We get an older person that is acting different. They're not hiding, things are not clamped, but there's a change in mental status. There's an older mental status situation, right? So we don't know what it is. We're not going to wait until we get cultures back in 3 days to start treating. So they're treated with 3 or 4 antibiotics at the same time, the same approach. You hit them with everything, you're going to get what it is. And then you get a culture. Then you say, okay, we found that it's a urinary tract infection. So we remove everything else. We keep this one or change it to a better one that has better coverage for the bacteria that was cultured. So the material that I use is that, but usually what I start with, I like to use flubendazole, which is a antiparasitic medication. It treats most
That's
of
my
the
number one.
externals. Ah,
That's my number one. That's my
yeah,
favorite one.
I use flubendazole. Why flubendazole? Because it dissolves pretty nicely. I tried fenbendazole is a great medication too, but it is impossible to dissolve in
Breakdown.
water. Yeah, you could use vodka, which I try. DMSO is a solvent, supposedly, but once it goes in, your tongue is cloudy, it settles, and it's almost impossible to dissolve well. It's a solubility sucks on it. Flubendazole is a one treatment. They recommend once a month. Again, you can do whatever that's what they're going to sell you medication. So they recommend once a month. So I do it every 1 to 2 months, sometimes 3 months. Whenever I think about it, I don't add new fish without quarantining. And I had not used any kind of charcoal or anything, but recently I added back what do you call this thing? ChemiPure, which I use. And then the other resin by Seachem, I'm just blanking for names right now. It's a
Purigen?
little white. Huh? Which one?
Purigen?
Yeah,
Purigen.
Purigen. I blank for it. I have a thing for names when I need them on demand. I added Purigen back to the tank. Do I need it to make the water any different? No, the water looks the same. I don't have a problem with water quality issues or clarity, but I said, it could not hurt because anything else that that we don't see or we cannot measure for, if it's going to absorb it, why not? And I added them, but that means I have to open up the FX6, take it out so that I can medicate again. So when it's time to take the floss out, the fine floss, in another month or so, I'll treat them then because then it's removed and I don't have to worry about, I can turn off the UVs, those that have it, and take those stuff that will generally absorb the medication. Melvin is here. Hello, Melvin. Melvin said, hello, my name is Jeff. Jeff.
Well, hi, Chief.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Again, if you ask any medical person or nurse, we push drugs. That's part of our. That's what we do. We drug pushers, legal drug pushers. So because
You're saying
we know that.
so
Huh?
even as a nurse or a doctor, you guys play the guessing game and just hope something sticks.
Yeah, it's not a guessing games more or less, but one of the things is, it is those things. If you come in with certain symptoms, if it acts like quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So you know what you're coming in. Once somebody tells you, they don't have to finish telling the story. Tell you, yeah, you have a urinary tract infection, or you have this, and then you treat them with the proper thing. But when you have typically more so in women than men, you have somebody who's in the late 70s, 80s, 90s, who come in and they're just acting different, but they're not themselves. They
Well,
cannot
here's the
tell
thing.
you.
Yeah,
Huh?
and I had a friend like that. He was 81. They
Yeah.
rushed him to the ER because he was acting really weird. They thought he was going to die. They didn't know what was going on. So they just started pumping him with all these antibiotics. And eventually one took. And he went
Yeah,
back to himself to live like 6 more years.
that's the thing, because the thing is, if somebody comes in with weird symptoms, you don't know what they are. So what do we do very quickly? We take blood cultures, because we don't know if the bacteria is going to be a sepsis, meaning the whatever infection they have is throughout. So we're going to get blood cultures, but we have 2 to 3 days before we get any results of those things. If they're negative, okay, so there's not a bloodborne infection. Urinary tract infection, usually we get it within 32 minutes, 30 minutes or so. We have bacteria, there's a source of infection, we found it, right? But we don't know what bacteria specifically is there. So they have to do a culture in a lab to find out which is the best antibiotic for that. But meanwhile, they're already being treated. We don't want to wait 3 days when the person potentially could die. So it's not a
Yep.
guessing game. When you do something, that is long, you do something long enough, you see ick in a fish, you don't have to guess it is ick or not. You could guess if it's versus Epistylis, which I got a case here in the 60-gallon. I saw it and I said, this is not ick. So I didn't waste time I lost 2 fish, one the same day, one the next day. And I started treatment right away. Then everybody that had Epistylis, which looks like ick a lot, they all got the next day, everybody was back to normal after just one treatment. But if I started treating, I think it happened with June. If you start treating for ick and they just get worse and worse and worse, you're going to lose a lot of fish trying to treat ick, and it's not. So that would be a guessing game. But if you recognize which is which and you treat it appropriately, you're not going to
Yep.
lose. You're not going to lose a fish. But when you don't know what it is, so a person with an Ultramentous status comes in, they're acting strange. We usually within 15 minutes we have in a CAT scan. We want to make sure it's not a stroke, right? We can rule that out very quickly. If it's a stroke, we know that they're acting weird, not because of an infection, but because it's a stroke going on. But we
Yeah.
already sent all the blood work and all that stuff is cooking, but we quickly rule out what is not. And then usually by the next day, the person starts to respond and wake up a little bit more, starts talking, starts doing things, because that shotgun approach, something is working and we just remove what they no longer need. So
Yep.
I take the same approach with fish. I treat them. If any of them die, so be it. I have not lost fish because of let me back up a little bit. During quarantine with the medication, I have not really lost a fish. I lost 2 because of medication. I lose 2 golden nugget
Really?
plecos.
Okay.
Yeah. But again, I quarantine others, same medication, and I have them here. They're going on 3, 4, 5 years already. Now, they were treated the same way. What killed those other ones? I don't know. Sometimes you get a little careless and you're treating with medication, it's going to affect the beneficial bacteria, because antibiotics are going to kill the good and the bad. So if you don't keep an eye on your ammonia level, you may lose them because of ammonia, not because of the medications. And usually as I'm treating them, I am doing safe, which is less expensive than prime. I not dechlorinate, but I treat it to neutralize the ammonia and the other stuff. because that's going to kill them. It's not the antibiotics necessarily. And again, all these guys behind me, they're all treated the same. I treat all of them the same. And that trio, I use it coming in because I know that flubendazole is going to hit. The quick stuff is 1 day. The other one is usually a 10-day treatment. And
Yeah.
that's kind of that. I usually, it takes care of everything. But ICX, I have it, but I have not seen ick in my house. I bought some stuff, small fish like cardinals. I think it was from Petco, and he got ick in a few days. But they were in a quarantine tag, so I treated with ICX then. But flubendazole takes care of ick also. So pretty much most of the things external and some internal, it'll take care of it. Oh, the other thing that I like to use also for is Prosipro, Prosiquantel, other than flubendazole, because that targets more tapeworm, which the fish is prone to get. One time, one passed a tapeworm here, and I said, I was surprised. I said, holy cow. But it was like the day after I started the Prosipro.
Quarantine.
Yeah, the Prosipro. So again, the
Okay.
fish look perfectly healthy. Now, if I waited for something to come up, then it would probably have been too far. June says ick is horrible. It is. It really is. And one of the things with ick that they said ick is doesn't just come out of if you haven't had anything new in the tank, and ick is just not going to come out of nowhere. Now, why did I get this epistylis in this tank? Was plants when I come in, I treat them with a 1 part bleach, 19 parts chlorine, and I dip it for 2 minutes. All the plants that come in, Val and some sensitive plants, I don't dip them. I do something else. But like there was some anubias, they're pretty hardy. And I treated them with that. And then like within 3 days after the plants, because I did not treat them, I got a case of epistylis and lost 2 fish with it. But again, just acted quickly because I recognized what it was early. And I treated for the right thing. So that's kind of it for that. Long way around to explaining do I treat it, but again, it was kind of a lot of things combined.
I really don't find myself getting ick anymore. I haven't had ick in a long time.
No, because you probably take precautions. And if you
Yeah.
don't,
When I
if
first
you,
got in the hobby, though, like I got ick all the time. You know, but nowadays I don't really see ick. I get more parasites. I think I deal with more than anything nowadays.
yeah,
You get new
Uh,
fish.
yeah. As far as the only thing that I've experienced, other than internal, where you get the white poop and then you get a hole in the head and some discus, has been, that's the only type of really parasite. But like ankle worms and any other stuff, if I've had them, then they were treated. So I never really got to see it.
Yep. I've had gill flukes in the past with the
Yeah.
discus.
Mhm.
I got
Yeah.
discus from a guy that did great in his tank, hit my tank, and they just blew out of control with it.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of. I've been hearing. I could hear you through it, but I've been hearing a lot of static coming from your end. Not from you, from you. I don't mean from you. It could be just my own internet, because I'm not on the house internet, but on just the own phone signal. Let me just check battery to make sure we just don't get off suddenly.
Yeah, you're crystal clear to me. I don't hear anything.
Yeah. I am at 6% on my phone. Let me plug in a battery here so I don't lose you. Give me a second.
Who's in here still? We still got Mel. We got June. We got Melvin. Jose is the original Oach Fish Farm fish fan member like me. Just in case anybody's watching, I'm going to be shipping all the Blue Pearl Scale Angels this week. So make sure you keep up. If you don't get a message from me, just message me so I get you guys the tracking numbers. Hi, Shirley. Shirley's still here. She forgot about me. Hey, Mel.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm switching over to my. Yeah, I could hear you. Give me a second. I'm trying to switch over and put myself on battery so I don't run, so I don't die here. Mm.
What are we doing? We're waiting for Jose. That's what we're doing.
Let me try to get back on here again. Can you see me now?
I can see you.
You could see me. Okay. So let me.
I
I
can see
connected the
you.
phone because I was down to 6% on battery. And let me just change the
Hi,
angle here a
Barbara.
little bit.
Well, Jeff's auction's coming up this week, right?
Who is? It is.
Jeff,
What time is it?
31st, I believe, right?
Oh, the auction is on the 31st.
Are you going to be in it? Anything to
I'll
sell?
see. I'll probably wind up buying something else again. I probably will. It's usually fun because some of the prices you get at the auctions, they're ridiculous, you know. Like at your sale too, it was great.
I like that, though. I like stuff when it goes cheap. To me, it's funner. I'm not making a ton of money, but I enjoy it more.
Hmm. iPhone microphone. Okay, I am.
Melvin's over here trying to serenade
Yeah, I'm getting sound from the
Barbara.
phone speaker now, so I thought it would transfer to here, but it hasn't picked up.
You're welcome, Anthony.
Yeah.
Can you hear me better?
And I can hear you fine, but I'm just hearing through the iPhone speaker because it was down to
Okay.
almost no battery. But I was trying to. It was better through
iPhone?
the headphone thing.
Makes sense.
So it's 10 o'clock. Does Jeff goes on live at 10:30?
He does.
Yeah. So we will run into his time.
That's okay. We don't have to go
Oh,
too
Barbara
much
Jackson
longer.
came in since I last looked. Hello, Barbara. All right. Do we still have like 19, 20 people on? Is everybody
Yeah.
still kind
Anything
of
else you
hanging
want
out?
to? Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we kind of cover in a nutshell a lot of the things, without any particular plan. So, most of these conversations, they kind of go, you go with the flow. And,
Yeah.
whatever, usually one question triggers another and it triggers a conversation. So this was, I think, was pretty good. How long we were on? 10:30, about an hour almost, right? No, a little bit over an hour.
Yeah. 111.9. So it's been over an
Yeah.
hour. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. So I thank you for inviting me. So,
Oh, no problem.
yeah, I'm going to wait a little bit and then I will join Jeff's live.
Are you going to be on Just Live tonight?
No, I mean, not on as a guest, but usually I hang
Oh,
out
watching.
and they keep me awake for a while sometimes. So
Yeah.
no,
No.
not
I
yeah,
love
not.
Jeff, but sometimes I try to get you to go real late.
Mhm.
Like I don't mind doing it to like 12, 1. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, but when it gets like 2ish, I'm like, you're not going to fall asleep for a couple more
Yeah,
hours.
yeah. Ed's Aquatic came on. Hello, Ed.
Hi, Ed. How you doing? How's all your fish doing, Ed, by the way? Ed got some, Amicus from me. He also got the Paraguay Plecos, too.
You're welcome, Margaret. It's a pleasure being you, and thank you so much for your comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. You're beautiful. Oh, that's cute.
Thank you.
Jason, you have to see the new rice fish I procured. If you haven't yet, it's a crime. Just send me some fry, and then it won't be a crime. Mel, do you have them on your channel already?
Who is this? What is that?
I don't know. We have a bunch of messages at once. A gorgeous Mel. Jason, it's a friendship thing because her last name is Jackson and the rap duo Outkast has a song called Miss Jackson. Oh, I know Melvin. I know the song. I just thought it was funny. And you got tons of babies already of what, the Placos or the Mikas? Mel is obsessed if you can't tell.
So, Jason,
Yeah,
the Amicas, you keep them in an if you keep them in low 70s, I guess the tanks are not heated then in your case, right?
they are heated. I keep them heated enough to keep it chill out.
Okay.
You know, they're kept right around 72 because I'm running a 300-watt heater. But
Okay.
the way it goes, there's a pump in the bottom of my 40 breeder, and it goes up and it goes through 8, 10 gallons, and it all runs back down.
Mhm.
So temperature tends to it's hard to regulate that temperature really high. So I just leave it lower because if I put it too high, the bottom tank gets way too hot before the top tanks get. You know what I mean? Then it just takes forever to start to really screw things up. So I find by leaving around 72, it's only a couple degrees off from my basement. The basement's right around 68, 70. So it tends to regulate a little bit more and it keeps that chill out. And I was talking with Amicus too. I think I was having an issue where I was having babies bigger than they should have been because they are live bear and they take the 2 months. That I think it was too hot in some of my tanks that the babies were growing too rapidly. So when they did produce the babies, they were just ripping them open. So I found that the Mikas I liked a little bit cooler. So ever since then, I've been doing that and I've had no real issues with them. A lot of messages.
Mhm.
Shirley's angelfish have hatched out yesterday. Congratulations. Andre 3000 is your favorite. I used to love that. They don't outcast the big boys. They don't get along no more. Skiff, Amika Splendens, Chuckadins, and Corys. Awesome. So do you have any new fish you want to get? Any new fish on your bucket list, Jose?
Ah, God. I would if I had the space, I would probably get African cichlids at some point. But I just the aggression. If you get the right mix, you probably do okay. But I would have to have at least 180 if I can have it to space. But not where I currently live in an apartment, on a 6th floor apartment, and I think I'm over tanked anyway. So
Yeah.
hopefully, I don't have a major problem because that would be a mess if any of these tanks fail. But probably those will be the ones that I will probably have more interest in. But most of the things, most of the fish that I like to keep, I have most of them because everything is overstocked. So it's just a jumble mix of everything. But I
Yeah.
think if I probably like in this, there's so many varieties that you see one, oh, I want one of those, oh, I want one of those. If I have more space, I probably would have more discus tanks. That will be probably first before
Yep.
I get African cichlids. Because I like that. I like the fish because I like the colors. If I had a choice, way back about 1988, I made large space for about a 300-gallon tank in a wall between two rooms. I opened up the wall and did a built-in cabinet, a nice cabinet that
Nice.
would work back then. And it was supposed to be a marine tank, but then of course life happened, divorce happened, and my ex-wife and kids, the older kids, two of them still live in the house. But recently, my daughter finally gave up a 75 that I had over there, and I have it in storage. But they kept saying, "No, I'm going to say it was dry for 10 years." Oh, we're going to set it up. We're going to set it up. So eventually, the mother asked, ask your dad. Maybe he wants it because they finally decided that it was time to get rid of it. But I want a marine tank, basically. That's for the colors. I love the colors. But thinking back, I probably this is a better thing for me because I can keep more in a tank. Certainly, as I'm overstocked here, but I don't have an issue with the overstocking the way just maybe just lucky or It has worked out so far. And
Well,
every
that's the
time.
thing with freshwater versus saltwater. It's much easier to do water changes on a
Oh,
freshwater.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that was one of the things where I prepare for a marine, but at the time, and the science as it is today and the knowledge that we have today from the 70s and 80s is not the same. So certainly it's a lot easier to keep marine now, but still, when you lose big in marine. And, if I'm going to have a tank to have a few fish in there, that's not, and if I want, and if I have something, it will definitely be a reef tank, not just fish only. It would be primarily reef with a few fish that are okay with anemones, like the clowns and so on. But that's probably what I would, eventually would like to have. But I know it's such a
Yeah.
pain in the neck that I don't know if I want to deal with it.
Well, that's the whole thing with the reef tank. Like I've done the reef tanks. They're beautiful, but it is a lot more work. A lot
Oh
more
yeah,
work. Time
absolutely.
consuming.
Yeah,
And then
freshwater
the
is,
higher
yeah, once you have it together, freshwater is very easy. So it's certainly there's no comparison between the two. So
that's the thing. Like when I moved here 4 years ago, I had a reef tank at the other house, and I knew if I tried to transfer that whole system over here, I would have crashed it. So I ended up just bringing everything down to my LFS, and I just traded it to him for like $100. I didn't want to, but like I gave him my Tamini tanks, like all my tanks, all my clownfish. I was very depressed about it, but I knew if I tried to bring him here and try to set everything up, I was going to crash it all, and I would have killed him. He was excited, but I was pretty depressed. All the coral.
I'm reading Shirley's comment with the autocorrect problem. Uh, Christine says she had a marine tank back in the days, and you had to mix your own salt water. It's a lot of work, but the fish absolutely they're beautiful, Christine, and that's why I'm always every time I see marine tank, I'm in awe every time I see it, especially if it's a nicely done reef. But again, it's just one of those things that you say, well, certainly freshwater is much easier.
Yeah, but I feel like though buying discus and buying saltwater fish, I feel like the discus are actually more expensive than buying half the saltwater fish nowadays, to be honest.
Yeah, because I think the other thing else with the a lot of the saltwater fish they're wild caught too.
That's another thing too, yeah, but like majority of saltwater fish, you can get a nice variety for under $100.
Yeah,
Plenty of bucks.
yeah.
Discus, I feel like now are all like $100, especially at the local fish stores.
Some of the discs, if they're large enough, yeah. I'm just looking at one of the yellow disc that's in quarantine. I'm just looking at his poop. It's a regular brown solid stuff. Always have to be scanning. My wife and my daughter's usually the ones who find problems. I say, oh, look at this fish. She has a little scuff here or has this, and they're usually my eyes. They're the one who see things first before I do. Well, you're always looking. The damsel are considered a test fish, but dang, I love them. Yeah, the damsels are pretty, and they will be like the starting guppies, I guess, for most people. But it's just
I
there's
hate
so
them.
yeah, there's so much that can go wrong so quickly with Marines. But the
Well, I
more I
found,
keep, huh?
yeah. Well, the one thing I found, Marina, it's easier to keep fish than it is to keep coral.
Yeah.
Fish are much more forgiving than coral. Fish can handle swings,
Oh
coral can't.
no, absolutely. I've had through a lot of trial and error after keeping some of these fish. You will say, do I really want to deal with marine? And you'll probably say, well, I don't think so.
Yeah, no. Like Marina's fun. I tell everybody, I don't know if you ever heard Marina. They always recommend doing at least 120 gallon.
Hmm.
Have you heard that before?
How many gallons?
They always recommend doing at least 120 whenever you look it up.
Oh yeah, yeah. If I have a marine, I definitely wouldn't do anything less than that. I'm not gonna keep like two or three fish in a 75 or 55 gallon tank. I want to go something bigger because again, you can do small reefs. I've seen them, but if I get any marine, it's gonna be definitely with reef because I like planted tanks as much as I like the fish themselves. It's like half and well, maybe 60-40 thing. But with
Yep.
corals are like the plants of a tank, and if you just have lava rocks or those kind of rocks on a fish is, I don't know. I don't find it that attractive. But again, it's to each his own, you know.
Yep. No, I've kept all different sizes of tanks. I've had 5 gallon salt waters, 10 gallons, 20 gallons, 75 gallons, 60 gallons, overflows, it sumps.
Mhm.
And it all came down to what fish you were keeping.
Yeah.
My favorite tank I ever had was a 10 gallon water box, and I had a frogfish.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with them?
Which one was that one?
The frogfish? Have you ever heard of them?
No, no, not those. No, no.
Oh, dude, it's a saltwater fish. He was my favorite fish. Let me see if I can share it on the screen.
No, I don't know. Frogfish, you said?
Yeah, he's a dwarf frogfish. He was a red variant. They legit have like feet and hands. They call them an anglerfish too.
Margaret says, where do I get my discus fish from? I live in New York City, the Bronx specifically now. I lived outside of the city for over 30 years, but commuting in and out between one and two hospitals. And after I divorced, I moved back in. I'm only 50 minutes from work. But there's a place in New Jersey. It's probably, should be a little bit over 30 minutes, but with traffic, about an hour. So it's called Discus Madness. They ship, except to Continental and Puerto Rico, they ship. And they have, you still on, Jason?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Yeah, okay. They ship every place, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and in the continental US, not to Canada. They have, I think, 429 tanks, and probably about 70 to 80% of them are all discus. Oh, yeah, I've seen the fish. This is, you sharing screen now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've definitely seen them. I just didn't know that's what oh, yeah, there's that little flippers like frog. You had
yeah, they
those?
crawl around the tank. I used to have one. I paid like $150 for them.
Well, that's a huge mouth on the yellow one.
Yeah, they all got huge mouths. The way they would open it was amazing. They just legit. So when the fish would come near, they'd open up their mouth and it caused like a suction, and it would just rip them in.
Yeah, yeah, I could see that. Well, there's a good variety of them.
Yeah, they come in dwarfs, and they come in like one to like 12 inches. So there's different varieties of them, different colors.
I'm sorry to say, but that's an ugly fish. Not to offend you.
Oh, he was ugly as hell. That's why I loved him. He was just so ugly.
Hey, Jeffro. Jeffro came in.
Hey Jeff, how are you, brother? It just reminded me of like a drunk guy because they walk around your tank and they grab on with their hands, holding onto the walls and rock.
Wow. Hey, look at the blue one there. Go back down again. Back up to the top, above. Go scroll up.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell that is. Hairy
Yeah, God.
frogfish.
It's a frogfish too. It says it was probably a different variety, but they are ugly. There's some ugly fish in the sea for sure. Well,
Oh
we have
yeah,
some freshwater ugly ones. Go above the yellow one. You see the blue one in the middle there?
yeah.
Wow. It looks like one of the Muppet characters. I don't know which one.
Grouch.
Maybe. Wow.
Well, they have freshwater fish that's very similar to these guys.
Mhm.
I don't know if I forget what it was called.
Yeah. My for more better complete answer to was Margaret, I think. Where do I get it? So this is Madness is one, and there's another place in Queens, New York. They also ship. It's called Monster Aquarium Fish. They really carry a lot of odd stuff. They're the ones that I mentioned about the wild and how the quarantine. There's a few here in the discus tank, maybe three or four that is from them because sometimes I scan, there's not a lot of options there, and they never look as good as the one from Discus Madness. And what I do sometimes, I call them, did you get any shipments soon, recently? So there's something that I have in mind. I look around, I just kind of scan the area. If they have it, they'll come home with me, if I like them. So I have a few, and they certainly also are less expensive than the one at Discos Madness. For about the same size, they're a little bit less expensive. Online for Discus, I don't, I ordered some a while back from a place called discus.com. But when you choose a variety, they even within a variety, you may have a color or pattern in mind, but then when you get the fish is not what you had in mind because this even what they call in this kind is they're very different. So for this is I like to see the one and observe them for a while and say, no, I want that pattern or not that one. And sometimes I call them. They'll send me a picture of what, they know what I'm looking for. And I'll ask them and I'll tell them, hold that one, that particular one. They send me a video. And then when I go there, I find that of the same tank, I may like the pattern better on another one. So I may just change it. So
Yep.
it's, for this case at least, I like to pick them out and see them in person.
I agree, especially with the price range.
A new person
You know?
there, maybe you know them, Airstone Design.
That's John, Margaret, same person as Margaret.
Okay.
That's John. That's his own thing. Makes his own Airstone designs, artwork.
Oh,
It's really cool. I'll have to do another video with him.
they're in your area?
Yeah, he's down the Cape,
Oh, in the Cape.
Well,
Okay.
a couple hours away from me.
I had a cousin that lived in the Cape a while back. I visited her, but I think she's in England now.
That's a big jump across the water.
Muppet fish. That's what it looks like, a Muppet fish. You're right, Barbara.
Scorpion fish are unique and ugly too. Yeah, they are.
Right. Jason, we'll cut it. We'll end it so that people can go on to Jeff, so we don't run into his time. But thanks a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
again. Thank you for inviting me, and I'll hopefully see you next week.
All right, no problem, brother. Thank you
Yeah,
again for coming on.
I'll
I
give you a
appreciate it.
call. Yeah, I'll give you a call, and we'll agree another time. Okay.
All right, sounds good. Take care. Have a good night.
Thank you for the invite, and good night.